September 2000. Off the southern coast of France. Salvage teams search for a downed World War II plane. What they find, 60 meters down, is unexpected. Ancient amphoras, pottery containers of a type rarely recovered from the sea before. Their surprising discovery triggers an investigation that throws new light on Western Europe's first great civilization. A sophisticated society centuries before the Romans. Skilled workers in ceramics, craftsmen in bronze, artists in gold, experts in the production of wine, the Etruscans, a race that vanished into obscurity. The old stone fort that guards the port of Marseille harbors many treasures recovered from the Mediterranean. As Luc Long, the curator, makes his way to his office this September morning, a video cassette from the leader of the salvage team awaits him. Little does Luc realize that the underwater footage is about to draw him into a long-term archaeological adventure. A full-scale inquiry into a vanished race.
Hey, Michel.
Luc seeks confirmation from his colleague that the tape he's received from the divers shows remains that are truly Etruscan. There are 60 to 70 amphoras, indeed Etruscan, and all of the same design. Knowledge of the Etruscans is all too scarce, yet they were perhaps the true founders of European culture. In the 7th century BC, Egypt, Asia Minor and Greece ruled over the eastern shores of the Mediterranean. In the west, small tribal groups lived in antiquated villages. All that is, with one notable exception. A unique civilization flourishing on the western edge of Italy. Today, Etruria is known as Tuscany. Here, wealthy through minerals and agriculture, the Etruscans were developing a highly original way of life. For more than 5 centuries, these lords of the sea were vital middlemen between East and West, only to disappear from history.
One major problem with Etruscan culture is a very big lacuna, a very big gap, and that is that although the Etruscans were literate, and in fact we have thousands of inscriptions from Etruria, what they didn't seem to write was any connected history about themselves in the way that we have Roman history written by Roman historians, Greek history written by many Greek historians. The Etruscans seem to confine their writing more to matters to do with religion, and because we don't have that information, the very memory of the Etruscans as a nation has tended to fade after the Roman conquest.
Anything that sheds light on them would be a valued prize, well worth an expedition. 1 month after the discovery of the site on the Côte d'Azur, an underwater salvage vessel, complete with submersible, sets out towards the west of the small island of Grand Ribot. The amphoras were found just off its coast. The managing director of the salvage company, Henri Deleuze, had made the initial discovery. He's passionate about underwater archaeology, and he's giving Luc Lang a brief loan of the equipment needed for a preliminary investigation. The crew prepare the submersible for Luc's first descent.
J'espère une chose, c'est que
Luc can only hope the submersible doesn't
ils
leak.
sont bons en fermeture de porte.
C'est énorme. Regarde là, il y a 10 amphores sur un mètre carré.
Luc is astonished to see 10 amphoras in a single square meter. Amphoras, pottery vessels with a narrow neck and 2 handles, were the all-purpose containers of the ancient world. If Luc can recover them, they may offer clues to the mystery of their makers. The first challenge is to free the amphoras from the grasp of the mud and weed, using an enormous fan known as the blaster. The commercial diving equipment is only on loan to Luc for 2 weeks. He doesn't have long to make his initial survey. The crew decide to sweep over the wreck at 2.5 meters and map the area in 3 passes. Luc takes the opportunity to test a new approach, a robot. The amphoras lie 60 meters down, the limit for ordinary divers. If the robot works here, researchers will be able to explore depths beyond the reach of the Mediterranean's many underwater looters. The amphoras are spread out over an area a little smaller than a tennis singles court. The archaeologists assume that, like other ancient vessels discovered in the Mediterranean, the boat would have been a small craft, about 9 meters long.
Là, je suis à gauche. J'avance?
Ah oui, oui, tu es par là, là.
But what Henri Deleuze observes on his dive leads him to reject this idea.
J'ai bien passé? Oui. Entre ce qu'on voit sur les images du ROV,
Tu comprends rien,
images au fond.
When Luc asks him about his dive, Henri insists that the find is much bigger than the remote pictures make it appear.
Deux couches d'amphores.
Tu vois, c'est 2 couches, mais s'il n'y a plus le...
Là, à la sonde, ça...
Henri thinks the amphoras are still upright in sand and mud, one layer, still as they were loaded.
Elles sont verticales, il y en a une pleine couche, elles se touchent les unes les autres.
Là, je suis complètement épaté.
What Luc hears delights him. This would be the first time a big cargo's been found, and they can forget the idea that it was a small boat. They're looking at a big cargo vessel.
C'est un gros bateau.
If the boat does prove to be a big one, it will be a truly extraordinary discovery. Although Greek texts insist that the Etruscans were great navigators, there are very few illustrations or images giving any idea of the design of their ships or the size of their cargoes. After several precious days' preparation of the site, the archaeologists are at last ready to take to the water in force. They'll go down for a good 10 minutes, all they can risk at that depth. Luc is concerned that the finds be properly documented and marked. It's the first time that a boatload of the same type of amphoras has been found. Until now, scholars have assumed that only small boats carrying mixed loads plied the coast. No complete Etruscan vessel has ever been found, and no cargo all of the same contents. As all-purpose containers, the amphoras might have held grain, oil, or olives. The first results are encouraging. Luke quickly sees that the amphoras are all of a similar design. The potter was adept at producing a standard model. He tells the others that the containers are of a type appearing at the end of the 6th century BC. The design was widespread during the 5th century too. The fragments confirm what they saw on the monitor. The amphoras are all the same type. This does appear to be a commercial consignment of Etruscan amphoras dating back some 2,600 years. The size of the cargo and the fact it is all the same make this a major discovery. On the other hand, he doesn't know what these are. They look like weighing scale bowls or vase bottoms. They're very, very fine, either copper or bronze. It looks like a consignment of thin vases, but he doesn't really know. They'll have to soak them in fresh water and clean them to see properly. It proves to be a stopper. It's preserved perfectly intact and thick. It's made of cork. The cork stoppers are a unique find. Traces of pitch enable Luke to identify the pot's contents. Wine. Alcohol appears to have been a mainstay of Etruscan culture, but first-hand accounts are sadly lacking. Fragments of history may lie inside each amphora. Wine was one of the principal products carried by the coastal traders. The fragile pots must be handled with care. If it were legal to sell them on the open market, each would be worth between £5,000 and £10,000, making them highly attractive to underwater thieves. For their pains, Luke and his team now know that in a small area they have already found at least one layer of 70 5th century Etruscan amphoras. The cork stopper has enabled them to identify the contents as wine. The fact that they have found only Etruscan remains is promising, but the unexpected number of containers provides a problem. How do they tackle such a major find in the few days that remain? Can Luke dare to hope that they've stumbled on the first wreck of a large Etruscan vessel ever found?